Da 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 da. Just let me hold your hand, dear. Do come and have a drink or two down at the old Bull and Bush, Bush, Bush. I'm forever blowing bubbles, pretty bubbles in the air. They fly so high, nearly reach the sky. Then, like my dreams, they fade and die. Fortune's always hiding. I've looked everywhere. I'm forever blowing bubbles, pretty bubbles in the air.
How's it going, gang? It's the final render here, and a few weeks ago I was invited down to London by Bethesda to go and play the new Elsweyr expansion for the Elder Scrolls Online. This chapter of ESO brings the player to the land of the Khajiit, Elsweyr, where there are ancient dragons finally raising from their slumber. There is a new dragon crisis, and there is no Dragonborn to help you. So let's start talking about ESO and start talking about the Elsweyr expansion, which is being released in 2 months' time. The event Bethesda put on was pretty spectacular. Deep in an underground cavern beneath the streets of London, there was a fantastic recreation of the land of Elsweyr for us to go and play the game in. There was beautiful carpeted floors, lots of low tables, cosplayers, and lots of delicious food and drink from the brand new Skyrim cookbook. And I've got to say, Final Render did have quite a lot. And then after a little bit of introduction of the game where we were told about some of the new features, we got to jump in and actually play a build of the game 2 months early. And we were able to start with a brand new character. We were able to pick a character from the beginning of the game or from a level 50. I chose one that was actually a level 1, and I was able to try the new player tutorial again. If any of you guys haven't actually tried Elder Scrolls Online, I do highly recommend you give it a go. It's completely free to go ahead and play it, and it's probably the biggest game that Bethesda have actually made in terms of land mass. You've got all the different regions of the land that you know from the Elder Scrolls, which you can go and visit, and they are enormous. You've got places from Skyrim, you've got places from Oblivion, you've got places from even the very original games, which came out years and years ago, well, 25 years ago now. And something which is really nice about it as well is that all the quests are completely voice acted, and stuff like that I think is what makes it really accessible. I never really liked MMOs before, but seeing as I'm able to play this one pretty much by myself in third or first person and have fully voice acted quest lines, it makes it feel like a single player game, except there is obviously the huge player interaction of an MMO as well. And as I said, it's completely free to go ahead and try it if you want to. I've played it a little bit myself and I generally really enjoy it. And there are some really nice things about playing ESO that in a way are probably better than games like Skyrim. Like for example, if you want to use a spell, you don't have to put your sword and shield away, equip a spell, and then use the spell like a weapon. You can just hit a number on your keyboard and use the spell without putting away your sword and shield, etc. So it's a really quick and easy way to go back and forth between magic. It encourages you to experiment with different types of spells and also different types of weapons because you can use them at the same time. Even little things like you can just press H to summon your horse and it will appear in front of you. It's fantastic, and I really like that over some of the more traditional Elder Scrolls games. But you guys want to hear about Elsweyr itself. So Elsweyr is actually one of the oldest landscapes in the Elder Scrolls universe, and the architecture and the landscape and the kind of plant life is all inspired by like Arabia and Northern Africa, Egypt, and it's got some of the most ancient looking architecture, and they look so well weathered, and the landscape itself looks beautiful and lush and full of life, but also at the same time very dry and hostile. And there are lots of problems in Elsweyr to do with the undead being raised, because one of the new things in Elsweyr, of course, is a brand new necromancy class. A lot of people have really wanted to have a necromancy class inside here, so it's very typical for fantasy games to have necromancy in there, and you can go and use it in the Elder Scrolls now. And there are some very cool things they told us about the new necromancy class, so that when you raise like an army or a squad of skeletons, for example, you don't actually have to micromanage them. They don't just kind of hang around you. They do kind of go off and do their own thing. They're very clever in that sense. They do what you would expect a living creature to do. You know, they just basically do what is needed at the time and can kind of think by themselves pretty autonomously, which I think is a really cool idea, because whenever I've had the ability to summon little friends or little pets in a game. I hate it when they just kind of hang around you and only follow you. It's not very believable, is it? You know, you want to see them kind of go off and do their own thing, but stick by close enough to actually help you when you need them. And we were also assured by ZeniMax that playing a Necromancer is very different to playing anything that you have played in the Elder Scrolls Online. Like, typically speaking, Necromancy is illegal pretty much anywhere in the land of Elder Scrolls. So if you're going to play a Necromancer, you've really got to be careful about what spells you use. If you clearly use a spell that looks like it's Necromancy, you will have all the guards in the area and all of the police patrols looking for you, and you don't want that. So you've got to be very careful about where and when you let people know you are a Necromancer and you have all of this illegal magic. Because unsurprisingly, of course, people think it's not very respectful for you to go around raising their dead ancestors and use them to do your bidding, so it's illegal pretty much anywhere. So you've got a very powerful class here with some very powerful magic, but there are just certain places where you've got to be very, very sneaky if you want to go ahead and use your most powerful spell. So you've got to keep that in mind if you're playing a Necromancer class. You've got some great stuff, but you could get into a lot of trouble for using it. And one of the biggest attractions, of course, of the new Elsweyr chapter is the return of the dragons. The dragons are back, and they're deadlier and scarier than ever. They have come to a land which is already in huge amounts of trouble with civil wars and power struggles, and now there is also a dragon crisis. And one thing we were very much assured by ZeniMax is that these dragons are tough. One thing they kept emphasizing was that you or no one else around you is the Dragonborn. You cannot kill a dragon by yourself. Dragons are now these giant super bosses that you and many other players have to fight. I imagine they'll definitely have them in some of the trials and some of the dungeons. And also, of course, dragons are living creatures. They are mobile. It's not like the anchors, for example, where they're in one place and then you get a big battle every time you go to this one place. They're moving about, so you'll either have to hunt for them with your friends, or maybe you'll just get pleasantly surprised, or unpleasantly surprised, when a dragon comes down to say hello to you. So all the players will be coming together to take down these giant dragons and probably get some huge bountiful rewards as well. And the dragons themselves, they are just as good as they were in Skyrim. You know, they look fantastic, they sound fantastic, they've still got all their names and their dragon language and stuff, and they are generally a very cool thing to see in this huge open desert, and you just see a dragon flying overhead in the beautiful clear sky. It looks fantastic. And of course, with it being a chapter in ESO, there is a bunch more quests for you to do, there's a bunch of more pets for you to collect, new armors for you to collect, and something which was very apparent, like it is in most of the chapters in ESO, is that there is a huge amount of quests to do. I was literally tripping over quests. I had already had a huge amount of quests logged up for me to do, just in the 1 hour or so I was playing the game. So there's going to be plenty for you to do at launch, even if this is your first one. Because something really good about ESO is that it really doesn't matter where you jump in the game. You can start and have Elsweyr be your very first chapter in the game, and you can still play it as a new player or as a veteran. There is no locked off content. You don't have to do the first chapter from years ago, then do the second chapter from years ago. You can literally start with the latest one, and then go back to the very original game should you want to. I found it very accessible in that sense. The combat itself is still really, really fun. You've got the actual combat which you control yourself. You don't have that typical MMO one-click combat where you just simply click on an enemy and then wait for the attacks to happen. You actually move about, you dodge, you block, you do everything you would normally do in a third-person or first-person combat game, which I think is really, really fun way to play. And overall, it's just a very neat package. And not only that, but there's a bunch of other stuff which is being brought to the game, which long-time fans have wanted for a long time. For example, a guild finder is now something which is added to the game. Typically speaking, the guilds are invite only, so you've got to go into web forums or you've got to get an invite from a friend. But now you can actually search for a guild, or you can make your guild open for recruiting. You can set your guild up so that you can say to new players, if you want to come along, just go ahead and apply and then you can come in inside. So a lot of people are really looking forward to that. And overall, it just seems like a fantastic package for veteran players and new players alike. So thank you very much for watching this video on the Elsweyr chapter of the Elder Scrolls Online. It is released on June 4th on PC, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. And you can get to go to Elsweyr, slay some dragons, raise some undead and have a lot of fun. I really enjoyed playing it for the hour I was there. Thank you very much to Bethesda for inviting me down. Got to meet some fantastic content creators, got to play the game, and had a really fun day out. And also guys, if you are a veteran of the Elder Scrolls and you feel as if this video was a little too basic for you, there are still plenty of people on YouTube, on Twitch, who are definite hardcore veterans of the game, who know a bit more about it than I do. I'm only a level 15 in the game, so make sure you seek out those people, such as K-Pow and Ophelia Noir, all those people, if you really want to know some more veteran stuff on the game. But until next time, I'll see you around. This has been the final render, and you've been the audience. Remember to check out all the cool Patreon people in the description below, who have supported the channel with their financial donations. Same for the YouTube members, and I'll see you around. This has been the final render, and you've been the audience. Until next time, farewell.